celebrate the life, poetry, and of Iron Thomas, and also include in that, of course, her father, Dylan Thomas, because she, apart from being a wonderful performer of her own work, tirelessly promoted her father's work as well. We've got a wonderful lineup tonight. All the poets who are performing have performed in shows we've organised with Iron Thomas. We've got Jasmine Ann Corey, Pete Murray, Ardella Jones, Orianne Edwards, Sue Johns, and myself, Patrick Cunane. And we've also got a very special guest, Hugh Ellis, Iron's son, who's going to do a couple of poems as well. So we're very delighted that he's here. And so we will begin. I should just say a couple of things about, if you don't know the Poetry Cafe, you probably sussed out the bars upstairs and the toilets are at the back. We will be taking a break after about 40-45 minutes for 20 minutes refreshments, and we should finish around 10 o'clock. So there you are. I'm going to start the evening. I'm Patrick Cunane. Long before I met Iron, I was a huge Dylan Thomas fan. He was one of the people who inspired me to want to write my own poems, and I went to Larne first of all back in the 1970s, and while I was there I noticed that the 7 pubs in the village all claimed that Dylan Thomas was a regular visitor at their establishment and generally had a photograph to prove it. So this was my first poem, inspired by Larne. Here in Larne, the light fading a little about 7, ghost of the bard creeping in on a salt grey sea, washing into silences between stone cottages, St. Martin's Church keeping vigil on the hill, and the light beginning not to be there at all. Ensconced in a pub where Dylan might have drunk, a wall-mounted picture framed just in case, and Larne Castle blocking the eastern cloud. I dreamed that once in the faded summer of years, laughing amongst the tall boats, I glanced to where orchestral stalling created its own silent, unmomented world, wings fanned in perfect plane, pinned to the sky like a Celtic brooch in pure deceit of motion. Is it loud enough, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, good. After Iron died, I wrote this poem, and I was reflecting on the times we did spend in Larne performing in the Stable Door restaurant, many occasions. It's called Shelter in a Memory. I took shelter in a memory, South Wales, the Corporation Arms, a cold autumn night, the sea at bay. We were celebrating after another show, another kicking at the traces of dust. The memory feels warm, a cuddle from an old friend, from a poet as bright as stars on cold estuary nights. I raise a glass, and then another glass. The wine smiles brightly as your memory. Many of you will know, of course, that Iron Thomas was half Irish. Her mother Caitlin was from County Clare, which happens to be the same part of Ireland that my mother comes from. And you may also be aware that that's the west of Ireland, of course. In the west of Ireland there's a saying that a gentleman is someone who can play the accordion but doesn't. And this is a poem about one of the Aran Islands, which lie just off Clare. It's about Inishmore, the largest of the 3. It's a beautiful golden place when the sun is out. And it's also historically interesting in that Cromwell billeted some troops there. And after the hostilities ended for a period, many of the troops stayed on and married into the island. Inishmore. Summer returns to the west, light refracted through crystal, paddling in the surf on the western edge of Europe, our bony feet pale as salmon bewitched by ghosts. Summer returns to the west, our lives weary of death return to us, cycling till we run out of road, stopping for Guinness, bewitched by thirst. Inishmore, Inishmore, Inishmore. I repeat this mantra, asleep on the beach, running grey volcanic sand through bony fingers, skeletons of Cromwell soldiers almost within reach. History's crowded solitude humming in this untrafficked place. Inishmore, Inishmore, Inishmore. I'm sure some of you have read Aaron's memoir published this year, My Father's Places, and in it she mentions that Dylan Thomas wrote one poem specifically for her, In Country Sleep, and I just want to read the first two verses because it's quite a long poem, and I think it references the fact that she used to love the fact that her father read stories to her, and the first verses I think talk about this. Never and never, my girl, riding far and near, in the land of the hearthstone tales and spelled asleep, fear or belief that the wolf in a sheep-white hood, loping and bleating roughly and blithely shall leap. My dear, out of a lair in the flocked leaves and the dew-dipped year, to eat your heart in the house in the rosy wood. Sleep, good forever, slow and deep, spelled rare and wise. My girl, ranging the night in the rose and shire of the hob-nailed tales. No gooseherd or swine will turn into a homestall king or hamlet of fire and prince of ice, to court the honeyed heart from your side before sunrise, in a spinney of ring boys and ganders, spike and burn. I'm going to finish my first contribution tonight. We're all going to be on in each half. I don't know if I mentioned that. Hopefully doing different work in each half. This is a little passage from My Father's Places where Aaron describes a typical Christmas at home with the Thomases. As the afternoon drew on, we played noughts and crosses and hangman, munching sweets and drinking pop. It was getting hot in the small room with the heavy scent of leftovers, dried fruit and singed holly, and time for my father to leave for the Browns for a sociable drink. I was full and tired. When I started pulling things out from my morning Christmas stocking, finding my tin trumpet, I saw my father move restlessly in his chair. I played the trumpet as loudly as I could, and a thin whistle sound limped out, but it was enough. My mother told us to get ready for bed. Before bed I went outside. The tide was creeping through the square hole in the garden wall, and I rushed out onto the veranda to look down on the waters half filling the garden at that time of year. Putting the tin whistle trumpet to my lips, I gave a Christmas greeting. Pop! A thin moon cast its pale beams on the estuary. As the tide came in, water rapidly cast its circle ever wider. The light from the sky painted silvery grey patches which eddied toward our wall, entering the harbour like a determined but not unwelcome guest. Our lights and the moon made the rapidly filling pool of our back garden strange and eerie, but not frightening at all. I shimmered in the cold night air as Mother called me to go up to the steps to the house and to bed. So I went upstairs and pulled out my favourite book to finish off a perfect day. I was not allowed to disturb Colm by switching on the light, so I fumbled for the torch under my pillow. Before I found it, I fell asleep. Okay, well, I'm not going to make the introductions very elaborate tonight because there are quite a few of us, but I just want to say our next performer is a wonderful poet that's worked with Dodo Modern Poets on many occasions over the last couple of years. But she did perform with us at the final